Welcome to Late Night with Linda Rosa, where we get down to the art of the matter. Mis queridos, welcome y bienvenidos to Late Night with Linda Rosa, getting down to the art of the matter. Welcome back to Late Night with Linda Rosa. Thank you so much for joining me this evening. I hope everyone's doing good. And before I forget, please make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Late Night with Linda Rosa, as well as our Instagram and Facebook and all that good stuff. The link is in our bio. You can click on it and it'll take you straight to Facebook, to Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, you name it, I'm on it. And don't forget to send me your letters for Layers to Linda, where I'm answering your questions unfiltered and raw at latenightwithlindarosa@gmail.com. I would love to hear from you, whether it's comments, questions, or whatever you like, or any feelings you have towards any of the episodes, opinions, questions, comments. You hate it, you love it, both. Let me know. So we're gonna get into the topic of the day today, which is the art of, and this is a deep topic, and it can go many different ways, which is exactly why I'm happy to have my guest co-host, and we'll get to that in a second. But this week's episode topic is the art of avoiding the cattiness in women, aka embracing women empowerment. I think that movement is super strong right now and doing amazing things, whether you're owning a business or you're starting a movement or whatever good influence you're having towards your community or just people everywhere. I think that a lot of cattiness starts from insecurities. I think women tend to be catty, especially women who are catty for no reason. Like if you just come at somebody and you just have an attitude and you don't know the person, it's just a reflection of how you see yourself. To me, that's just how I see it. You know what I mean? How do I deal with catty women? We're going to get into detail about that. And women who tend to be catty on a regular basis, to me, it's kind of weak. I kind of question your character because it takes a lot of effort to be that fucking negative. Like, to go out of your way and just be a dick, So that's something I wanted to get into. I did read up on it a little bit, and one of the things that I did learn was that cattiness definitely comes from the sense of competitiveness, of being in competition with other women. I think that's the foundation of the cattiness that we're talking about. And why is it? Why is it that there's always a sense of competition whenever there's more than one woman in the room? What is that? That some women feel that. Some women don't get affected at all, and I respect that. I'm like that too, but I'm not gonna lie. There's been times where I walk into a room and I'm like, okay, you know what I mean? But there's certain situations where that happens. That doesn't happen every time. I'm not gonna go to Evie's house and be like, I feel like I'm in competition with her. What the fuck? That doesn't make any sense. You know what I mean? But there's women who literally are catty and feel either, I don't know what, inferior, a competition, or like, maybe that's something that person has that maybe is that you feel is stronger or better than you or something. Like I feel like that is kind of like the underlying emotion under that. I'm just curious as to why, there's women who don't go towards being catty with other women, and there's women who, although have their insecurities, still embrace women empowerment. You know what I mean? And I think there's levels of maturity in this too. So that's definitely something that I wanted to talk about today. So I'm gonna just bring it over to Evie. But before we get into that, hi. How are you, Bill?
I'm fantastic.
I love the confidence. So this week's topic is the art of avoiding the cattiness in women, aka embracing women empowerment.
Yeah. I don't know. You said some points that was like, it means competitiveness, or it means, being catty is synonymous to that. But I know that I've worked in places, because it's usually in the workplace where you feel the cattiness. Even though there's sometimes you'll feel it amongst friends. But I think it's just a matter of dissecting what that means to you and what that what that does to your, your psyche, what that does to your mind, to your, to your heart, to your drive. Is the cattiness something that you can use, or is it something that is going to break you? And I think that's where that difference comes in, because I think that men have cattiness. It's just they don't call it cattiness. They call it,
he's a savage, or whatever.
It's competitive.
It's competition.
But they don't name it catty. They name it competitive. But I think
they name it healthy competition.
Yeah. But women is catty.
But women is cattiness.
But I think that it's something that is kind of healthy, especially in a workplace, because I feel like people can get comfortable, and having somebody kind of keep you on your feet is important to be the best version of yourself. But it's also, depending on how you go about it, it can also be very unhealthy. It can also make for a really miserable work environment. I've something that I've noticed, and I'm not sure why. Maybe we could, dissect that, is when it's a predominantly female office or classroom or setting or group or whatever, when it's a predominantly female group of persons working on one goal, it gets like cliquey, and it's like this group of persons works together and this person is isolated. And I don't know. I've never understood that. I've always been like, man, I want to work with women. I think
it's important.
I think that there's a lot that you can learn from working with women. But unfortunately, I don't know if it's systemic that they've taught you to be that way. I don't know if it's cultural. I don't know if I couldn't tell you. But it's definitely something that I've noticed. It turns into almost like a cliquey thing that translates into cattiness.
I agree. Same respect or same energy as a man is. Everything we do is, if we're too strong, we're bitchy. If we tell you what we want, we're demanding. And if we have competition, we're catty. Now, I'm not saying that there's cattiness, competition that isn't cattiness. I'm just saying that I think people confuse all kinds of competition with cattiness.
In general. I also think that it's just, instead of sitting here and saying, oh, don't call it cattiness, we're being competitive, or don't call it this because, it's derogatory or whatever, I think we just sort of have to embrace the idea. So if being a woman means cattiness, then call it cattiness. But, understand what it is, versus making it be like, oh, I'm not catty. No. So I'm going to dumb myself down. And it's like, no, if that's what you want to call me, that's fine. As long as it works. The problem is when we use that as like a way to downplay other women and a way to degrade other women. And it's like, because I think, we can be catty and that's fine, but we can also
be mean.
And I don't know. I think it's one of those things that all too often, and I think I said this before, all too often we give, being a man, or, society's version of being strong is being a man, too much credit. And it's just like, call me catty, call me aggressive, call me soft, call me whatever you're
emotional.
Call me emotional.
She's just really emotional.
That's fine if that means being a woman. I just don't want you to see it as a negative,
or as a weakness.
Yeah, and it just always makes me kind of crazy that they use terms like you throw like a girl, or you run like a girl, or you're catty, or you're emotional as like women descriptions, and somehow they're weaknesses. And it's like, why can't we just turn it around? So use that word cattiness to empower each other.
Yeah.
Once we're able to put a name to it, you can embrace it better. So if you're in a group of persons, or you're with your colleagues, and you say, listen, you came at me this way and it felt a little catty, you open the box, that person might get offended. That person might be like,
absolutely, because the meaning behind it.
But I think the only way to avoid it, to change it, to switch it around, the only way to take away that feeling and make it healthy competition is to embrace it, is to call it by its name.
And okay, I'm catty, and
be like, damn, I was being catty, my bad. Okay. Sometimes it happens. Sometimes I'll come off nasty, but I'm having a bad day.
Everybody,
I'm.
But
I
just don't. But don't you feel like if a man comes at you like a whole asshole, is he just being a boss, whether he does it in a good way or in a bad way? He's still being a boss.
And
he's
I
a
think
leader.
that's as a woman, that's our job to be like, no, I get you were having a bad day.
Yeah,
I'm with you.
I'm with you on that.
But it's not okay.
Yeah.
And I think too often men don't get the it's not okay. You know, they can throw a chair across the room and it's like, oh, he was having a bad day. But that's where we have to come in
and be
not
like,
cry about it, not be like, oh my God, I can't believe. Just be like, I hear you, I saw you, I understand you, but just like I gotta brush up on my professionalism, so do you, sir. And I think they need to be held at that same level of accountability. So I've seen it, and you're right, I've seen it. And it's frustrating, but all we can do is our best to highlight it at the moment without it being like a thing. Extra. Be like, hey, listen. And the best way that I've been able to do that is build a rapport with these people. So if my bosses and colleagues and, you know, people that I constantly work with, and maybe not directly, but with to accomplish a goal, I try to get to know them. I try to get a feel for them. I try to see their good and their bad days. And once I get a well-rounded picture, I'll call them out on it. I'll be like, you know what? You've done better. Do better. Because I have to do better.
Yeah.
And
you hold them to the same standard.
And it's too often men, it's like, oh, you know, that's just how he is. And it's like,
and it's not okay because,
and I expect you to call me out too.
Right. But there's people who will call you out but can't get called out.
I think the fact that you hold back your cattiness and you disguise it so that no one else has the room to call you that. Do you think that that's something that a lot of women do? And therefore it's not something that we're comfortable, and that's why it's such a taboo. That's why it's such a derogatory term. Like, embrace, listen, I'm having a bad day. And a lot of the times they're gonna be like, oh my God, you're so emotional. Yes, and so is, you know, so are you. Just like no one calls you out on it. I think because the point that I'm trying to get across is that you're right. We do it. We hide. We come in with a fresh face and we don't embrace it because then it's weakness. But maybe we should change the tone on that.
See, now we're getting deep because we cut in the word cattiness, right? I think that one of the other reasons why I control the catty, the good and the bad catty, is because whether my catty is good or bad, being that I'm a minority, it's automatically intense. You understand? Because I think catty comes off differently whether it's good or bad. Everybody could be positively catty in the room, but it won't be received as positive in the room because culturally, some people don't even know what that looks like.
Right. And that's what I'm trying to say. If we expose it more and if we show it more, because right now it's accepted, a level of catty is accepted. Fine.
For certain people. You know what I mean? Exactly. Oh, right. Okay. Because
it's like you saying, oh, I have my voice and then I have a customer service voice.
Right.
You fit yourself into that mold.
Right.
But instead of us saying, oh, I have to be this version of it in order to be accepted, why not we be, you know, comfortable in who we are and still functional in who we are by also moving through that, you know, cultural difference, moving to, instead of calling a woman that comes into, a Spanish woman that comes into the room, you know, aggressive, why can't we just be like, so, you know, I hear you, what's happening? Like, remove the
fact that,
remove that, and be like, this is an expression. The only way to handle something like that is to continue, and we had a conversation about being, you know, your true self.
Yeah.
And we had a conversation about being, you know, the version of you that you want everybody to see and accept. And if that side of you comes out and it's misinterpreted, that's okay.
Absolutely.
Because you're not here to be interpreted.
Exactly. Absolutely. Yes.
And the clicks will happen, and I think instinctively your feelings are a little hurt.
Absolutely.
Like, instinctively you're like,
damn.
But
at the end of the day,
the tale is old as time. Only time will tell.
Only time will tell.
And it pushes through, and eventually what happens is you're able to prove that that's not you, that interpretation, and people start to understand you. Right. But I think all too often we hide that version of ourselves because we don't want to be misinterpreted. But that's that art that we're talking about, like being able to embrace that side of you, which it's called catty, but really it's healthy competition.
It is healthy.
And embrace it to where we can call each other out on it. Listen, you're going about it the wrong way, and you able to take it. Maybe your feelings might be hurt because no one likes to be told that they're wrong.
Of course.
But be able to dissect it, sleep on it, come back the next day and be like, you know what, I heard you. You know, I maybe don't agree with you, but I heard you. But all too often, it's like, she's catty and done.
Boom. You know, and it's like, and it's you.
Let's
damn,
take it. Let's break
like
it.
you understand, and especially when it's someone you never met, it's a new person, never they come from a whole different vibe, a whole different energy, a whole different environment. You can't assume that all catty bad catty. You know what I'm saying? You cannot.
You also have to put the value of your work on that scale. So
yeah.
Unfortunately, some people, their careers depend on it.
Right.
So you have to sit here and choose, all right, do I want to show this side of me or not? And to other people, it's like, listen, my career depends on it, but I'm not going to go through this, phony. I'm not going to go through this trying to fit a mold. I need to go through this
my way.
My most authentic self.
Yeah.
Because that's the only way I'm going to
and that's why it's important that when these things happen, when people show you who they are, believe them. And I'm a true believer in being your whole true self. The issue when you said like, you want to embrace who you are and your good cattiness at work. The only thing that I'm working on is the fact that some people don't want to accept my good catty, and therefore will then manipulate my good catty and make it seem like it's a problem. So then it's like you want to embrace it because it's really good. Like I had a situation a while ago where someone made a negative remark or complaint about something, and it wasn't true because the client, that same trait that the person was saying is the same thing that this client was like, I love that. So in my head, I'm like, so you mad. Yeah. The client's not mad,
and
you
that's
mad.
Why you should always be as genuine to yourself as possible.
Right.
And you can also pinpoint and break apart when something is catty specific. Like somebody's calling you catty in order to try to break you down versus somebody actually calling you catty because you're really being catty. So I think you just need to be as genuine to yourself and embrace that. If somebody calls you catty with, like if I
just think that with maturity comes the art of dealing with cattiness, avoiding cattiness. And let me elaborate what I mean about avoiding cattiness as we get to the end of this. Avoiding cattiness is me saying avoiding the negative perception of the cattiness, because I'm not gonna sit here and lie and act like I ever had the perception of good catty. It's just I believe I didn't call it good catty. I call it strong woman. But I'm glad that you said that because it made me like connect the two. That catty to some really just means that you're a strong individual, and they need to
as a person who's continuously bettering themselves. Needs to distinguish the two. Like, are you using it as a way to break me down or build me up? And either ways, I'm gonna work with it. So I, believe it or not, like some of the people that I'm closest to in my life, I've actually had checks like that, like whether it was me to them or them to me. And the reason why, believe it or not, it changes the dynamic is because it takes a lot to be really honest with somebody. It takes a lot to tell them the truth. Like, yo, look, I know you're a great person, but something you said didn't sit well, didn't feel right, or I just wanted to make sure I understood what you said. Like, people will change and look at you different when you address something, especially when you do it with genuine respect. Like, if you approach me on some respectful, genuine energy, I'm gonna keep that energy. I'm gonna follow that. But if you like just coming at me on some like you don't even want to resolve anything, you just want to say some shit and call me
catty while you're at it, that's so counterproductive. What does that do for me?
Yeah.
And then you wonder why you're getting a reaction. The funny thing is there's a lot of hypocrisy, because some women, that attention, that catty attention, you know what I'm saying? But God forbid you use it on them. Now they don't know how to handle that. If you cannot handle the cat, don't get catty. You know what I'm saying? If you can't, don't, because the thing is, you got to be able to follow through with that. Yeah. I'm not gonna lie, I'm catty, but I'm a humble cat. You know what I mean? Cause I'm like a bear, yo. I don't growl unless you poke my shit. But I'm not gonna lie. When I was younger,
you always thought somebody had it out for you.
Fuck. You know, I'm just like, you know, and I'm not even gonna lie, even now, like sometimes like, yo, what the fuck did I do, bro? Like sometimes I sit there and I'm like, what the fuck did I do? What did I say? And then I came to realization, shit, don't worry about it.
Like you said, a lot of cattiness comes from insecurity.
A
so
lot.
being sure in who you are and what you can bring to the table, and how to distinguish the difference between getting called catty as a way of complimenting your work or breaking you down, and you just embracing that. And I think letting things sort of roll off of you versus, because like I said, I've been in situations where it turns into like a click thing, and it, you know, you feel like, what are we in high school?
It does feel like you're in high school.
And then you come back and you're like, you know, this is work, and I've come here to do my job, to do it the best way that I can, and I'm not gonna bring this home to my home, and I'm not gonna let this poison or you know, sour.
And my thing is, listen, some people say, you know, how do you deal with a hater? How do you deal with that shit? I don't.
I don't.
We said it at the same time. I don't. Why you gotta deal with a hater? Fuck them. Fuck them. Give them the cutoff. I think that there's power in cattiness. I think it's about where you put it, what you do with it. I think that how do you avoid cattiness in women? You don't entertain the shit. Because I think sometimes when people try to bring you down, they're doing that because they see how amazing you really are. And they do that because they're probably intimidated by you, or intimidated by something about you, or maybe for no fucking reason other than they just not feeling you. But all of that comes from something that is happening within them. Sorry, within them. That person. It's something that's happening within. So you can't take that to heart too much, especially when you can't even validate it. Because there's been times where I've had conversations, my friends have checked me, they have said something, and I was like, oh, well, I mean, yeah, he right, she right. You know, I'm not gonna sit here and act like I'm always right. Nah, sometimes I fuck up. You know, but sometimes like you people come at you crazy or whatever, and
that's where you come and you dissect.
And you dissect and you're like, but what did I do?
Yeah. And
when you genuinely, and I'm not saying be defensive, because sometimes they're right, but when you genuinely don't see what they're talking about, let it go. Because obviously there's no foundation to that. It's just someone's fucking feelings. So how do you deal with that? You don't. I'm not perfect and I have bad days. I do, I'm not gonna lie. But I go out of my way to not take my anger or what I'm going or my stresses or my disappointment, whatever negative I'm going through, I literally do everything in my power not to share that shit. Or not to let it ooze out in different ways, whether it's hate or cattiness or bullying or whatever. Because a lot of that stuff, that's people, when people do shit, I feel like that's them unleashing these demons. And I would rather, I just don't think it's right to beat on somebody because you feel some kind of like, you know. So again, I couldn't agree with Evie more. I agree with her. She actually brought up a good point that there's good and bad cattiness, and it's just a matter of perception. It's a matter of how you act upon the cattiness or your cattiness, and how you react and how you use it, because we all have it. But how you use it is a definition of your character. And when you have women like myself, like Evie, women who are educated, intelligent, and self-empowered, we pay attention to shit like that. You know, you come into a room and you come in real hard and heavy and catty, like somebody's supposed to be intimidated by you. Sit down.
In the back too.
All the way in the back. You can't sit at my table.
I think when cattiness amongst friends happens, I think you gotta look at the big picture. Yeah. You gotta see, is it something that I might have caused? Is it something that's happening in their personal life? Is it something, because you know, you have friends for so long, you just assume that they're living the life that you met them at. But people change, people grow, people evolve. Yeah. So there might be some sort of turbulence happening at that point, and you might take it instinctively as, oh, you're being catty. but that might be something else. So I think it's one of those things that when it comes to friends, you need to be able to really hone in on what the reason is behind it. And if you check everything and it all checks out and nothing's really, really in an excuse as to why that's happening, then proceed to the cutting of off.
I agree to an extent, only because at the same time, if this is your circle of friends, because you have to be particular about who you call friends these days too. In my circle of friends, if I know you well enough and you coming at me with some catty shit and you're not communicating the normal way, whatever that is, I have to start questioning that. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm talking in reference to if it's people that you've known for a long time. You know them.
Yeah.
And then things change. They may be going through something.
Or, it might be just their natural feeling of, damn, they're doing what I wish I was doing. Or but that's a feeling that's going to happen. And you can't sit here and be like, well, we're no longer going to be friends because you had a very natural feeling against what's happening to me. It's just, you need to handle that because you're coming at me the wrong way. You're coming at me like I've done something to you.
Right.
If there's something that I'm doing that's bothering you, you got to look inside. Don't, project it towards me. Just look inward. Once you have that answer, we'll talk.
Right. But there comes a time where, what I'm trying to say is there comes a time where talk, like, there's only so much talk. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's only so many times you could have a conversation with somebody to the point where, like I said, I'm a little colder in the sense where, for me, once I'm done with you, I'm done with you. There's no me, entertaining or what. Like, once I'm like cool, I'm cool, because there's some things it's not worth the fight. It's just not worth it. So that's what I'm talking about. Like, some people in your life have seasons. And I'm not saying that nothing is permanent. I have friends that I've known since I was 5, still in my life. But there just comes a point where the cattiness is too much, or it's overtaking everything else, and it's overpowering the empowerment. When you get to that level, you gotta start creating a distance, because you don't want that negative cattiness to overtake your life, and now you become part of a negative catty clique. Because that's how some cliques form. Everybody comes into this, think about it, it's like a pool of like negative catty shit. And then everyone's like in it, and it's like crabs in a barrel trying to get out, but you can't.
I got so many visuals going on right now. You said cat shit.
It's just because it's just like, that's how
barrels.
I envision it. I just envision
it's just a mess.
It's just a mess. But negative cattiness is a mess. But there's opportunity. There's always opportunity to put light somewhere. And that's what you were talking about. And that's how we want to end this. You know what I'm saying? Cattiness exists. Cattiness happens. We all have a little catty in us. But there's good catty and there's bad catty. And good catty to me is women empowerment. Healthy competition. There's nothing wrong with talking shit. You're not being a bitch. Guys do it all the time. And I'm not talking about talking shit where you're hitting below the belt. I'm talking about like, healthy competition. I like to know that I'm making moves. I like to know that I'm always doing something, working on something. And I like to see what my friends, even if we're doing the same things. I've got friends that we do similar things. I know a number of photographers. I had a photographer in my show last season. I got one right here now, and I might have one next season. You know what I'm saying? It's not about you being the only one that's amazing at the one thing. That doesn't fucking exist. Tell me where. Tell me where. The only person I could think that's only one that's like the perfect person to do the one thing in the entire world is God himself. Other than that, so what you hating on? And let's just say me and Evie were both doing podcasts. Her journey, my journey is different. What she may get out of her podcast is different than what I'm getting. So what's the catty for? Cattiness for? Whatever. Anyway. My daughters and queridos, welcome back. Today, I have Chris from Clean USA with me. I'm so excited. Let me give y'all a 2-minute backstory. I know Chris from high school. And am I surprised that he's doing anything regarding the body? No, because from what I remember, Chris was always in sports, always doing something physical, always active. So I'm not even surprised. But I'm excited for you, man.
Life is great, actually. You know, aside from COVID and, you know, everything that we're experiencing with that, you know, aside the enthusiasm, spread the love as always, you know. So
I
life
like that.
is
That's
good.
what's up. I'm sure, you know, your path, the journey of your artistry with Clean USA, and even though you've had failures, why you still have such a positive attitude?
Well, you know, I'll start with failure can be seen as a negative thing, or coming from all that. The universe has some magical power that like just guides us, directs us where we, you know, where we need to be. So after my first few years in University of New Haven, I actually ended up getting in trouble because I started smoking the Marijani.
Mm-hmm.
I ended up getting caught out there, getting you know, expunged from school.
Okay, okay.
And from there, you know, I had to make some decisions. Came to a crossroads in life, had to make some decisions. So I came back home to New Jersey and back to Clifton, and I enrolled into Montclair State, which wasn't easy because my GPA was like a 2.0,
Mm-hmm.
and they didn't want to. I wanted to do business, like to start getting my way into like sports and sports management, and possibly become an agent. But again, the universe said no. What I need you to do is to start from scratch again. So they enrolled me into humanities major. And at first, I'm like, this is crazy because like I've already gone 3 years of school and college. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you know, I had, I think, approximately about 80 credits. So I'm like, come on, you guys can start me somewhere better. Like, give me something that I want. But they're like, no, we got to start you here. Little did I know it was a blessing in disguise. And day one, my first class of humanities, my professor, and I write about it in one of my posts.
Mm-hmm.
He starts off and he says, you know, I know I'm your professor and I have the authority. However, do not mistake for 1 second that I am never wrong. You know, he's like, always question what I do and have enough appreciation to be curious for that real understanding. So, you know, that just opened a gate in my head, like, to explore more, to not just be content with whatever is given to me, but more so reaching out for it. Exactly. So that really provoked my mind to lead into like diversifying with the sports and everything. So up until that time, I was training. I had my certification and all these things. So, you know, I've been doing the sports for quite some time. I just never on the level of business now, you know? You know, when something's great, you want to share it, you know? So you go to a great restaurant, what do? You tell your photo, you know, you go to a great hiking trail, you're like, oh, I got to let everyone know. So I started feeling great. I'm like, I have to let everybody know about this.
Yeah.
Literally that second, nothing was formed. No systems were formed, you know, in the initial stages. But I did have this, I guess what you're seeing now is this enthusiasm and this activity for just better. And like Kobe Bryant always says, you know, better. And whatever, there can be a little bit better. So that and patience, believe it or not, patience has been a huge thing for me throughout my life. And kind of, you know, making sure that I don't get or I don't settle on instant gratification, wanting things. And with failure, like usually when you fail, it's telling you, all right, it's not right now. Now's not the moment, you know?
Yeah.
Like that acceptance of, hey, if now's not the moment, when will it be? And what will it take for me to get to that point? So,
Or to get to the point where you realize that the moment is now.
Exactly.
That's what happened with me. I was like, what? Like, it wasn't about making that moment matter. It's about understanding that that I'm in that moment right now. So I shouldn't be wasting time. What gets you going? What sets the tone for Chris?
Well, you know, definitely mood. Although we're humans, and you know, every day is a new day. Sometimes our mind may be convoluted,
Mm-hmm.
you know, so much clutter, and then there's times where it's still up there, you know, and we're just so relaxed. But for the most part, diversity, you know, I like the application of diversity and everything. Science talks about diversity and how beneficial it is to the human race. So like I try to incorporate that with my music and the sounds. And oftentimes when I'm working out with my clients, many people don't understand that, and they might understand it on like an intellectual level, like going outside the box. But when it comes to physicality and how the mind and body, like it's a little difficult because pushing yourself outside of comfort zone can be tough, you know. And not only that, like
It is
painful, you know.
Give yourself a title. What would it be?
People call me sensei. People call me guru.
Okay.
People, you know, all these names, and like, get it. But I like to consider myself a student. Honestly,
you're so humble, Chris. What you're doing is even spiritual in a sense.
Yes.
You know what I mean? It's not just about building a muscle. It's about sustaining it. It's about making that muscle work for you in about 20 years.
Yes.
I mean, I feel like gym is great. Don't get me wrong, y'all. Gym is great. I work out too. It's good to work out. What I'm saying is, what Chris does to me is a specialty.
As far as culture, how it influences what I do, and you know, in general, I think the way we're growing now, and like literally after COVID, I think everyone feels like we're all going through this time of
uncertainty
and also reflection. In a sense, you know.
So my last question is, can you give me any advice or any words of encouragement for any starving artist, or specifically for anyone pursuing something in relation to what you're doing, whether it's physical therapy or in your world or not, just a starving artist, period? What would you tell them?
Just be consistent. And like that means, you know, we all know math, we all know numbers. You know, if you're 75% consistent, you know, you're doing what you're supposed to do, you know, that you don't really see the 25%, you know. More true is the 75%. So, you know, being consistent, and like, because like there's gonna be times, and everyone knows this, there's gonna be time, we're humans, we're gonna feel all sorts of way. We go through so many different stages in life, phases. So like, and the more we can, as long as you're sure about something, if it's something that you feel strongly about and you're passionate about, you know, even though it might be screaming at you like, oh, this is so uncomfortable, like just try to stay consistent, you know, and you know, don't fall into the gap of intensity, like I need, you know, like you were mentioning. But aside from that, advice, you know, I'm not one to really, I don't really like to give advice, you know, in a sense, because, you know, I always, growing up, I've always like, I felt like people giving me advice are just trying to like talk down at me, you know, in a sense.
Oh, kind of like telling you what to do as opposed to being like words of encouragement in a sense.
Exactly. So like, and you know, again, to me, it's all about leadership in this world. Because like, no matter what, leadership or vice versa, you can think of like student, teacher, and like it's a cycle that we constantly go through. So like the second we're born, and then you might have a little brother and nephew or whatever it might be, you then become their teacher. And then the cycle happens over and over and over again, or like in anything. So like, with that being said, I say always accept what's in front of us. Have the awareness of and the courageousness to like approach whatever is in front of us, and to at least understand it, touch it. You know, I always say, you know, there's two types of people. There's someone who can get burnt when they're a child touching a stove and they'll never ever in their life touch a stove again.
Mm-hmm.
The person who'll get burnt as a child and they'll become the world's greatest chef, you know? But like both of them have been burned, you know? So like, and with that, just always go towards what feels like, what doesn't feel right. Because like a lot of times what does feel right is the easy thing, you know? And it's so easy to neglect what's wrong in a sense. So
it's easy to not check yourself. It's easy to not swallow that pill. It's easy to put your imperfections that are affecting your life. Because I'm not saying that we're all gotta be perfect and that we are perfect, but there's some imperfections that are really holding us back. And those are the ones that we put in the back burner because we don't want to handle that.
yeah.
So
Wow.
some of the best things I've ever gotten in life was literally knowledge.
Wow.
And then knowledge got me money. You know what I'm
Right?
saying? So it's like first of all, I would never take $1 from you, but I'll take a knowledge from you.
Hey,
you know what I'm saying?
I love that.
I get that. Like, and that literally is the purpose. And that's why I love this show, man, because I can't represent every single woman in the world, but I know that there are many like myself. Yes. And I can't say that you represent every man in the world, but there are gentlemen like yourself. And I'm telling you, the knowledge you putting out right now on this podcast, I guarantee you, someone's gonna take that and be like, you see, I knew I could do that shit. I knew it was possible. I want peace too. It's just, I want people to see beyond the American dream. Yeah. It doesn't have to be that box. I low-key feel like sometimes people put the American dream in a box. And I just can't, I've been with everything you've been saying. You're way deeper than I thought.
No. Hey.
Way deeper. Which is a great thing.
Ditto. Like, honestly, when you hit me up, I was astounded. I was like, this is incredible. Like,
really?
Because I share the sentiment of people like creating. Mm-hmm. You know, I'm big for creators because like at the end of the day, it's easy to be a follower, you know, and
very
easy to spectate. So
yeah,
you know, here we are initiating. You know,
that's why I love the show because I feel like I literally learned something from every artist. You made physical health and art by making it your own, literally. Yeah, I respect that. Like, see, I knew I had to get Chris on my show. I knew. I've been watching him for a minute. You know, I have. I just, you know, I'm low key. So I'm just glad that you got on the show. I'm not gonna lie, man. I'm surprised. I knew you were chill, but I didn't know you were this deep.
No, hey, I don't even consider myself deep or anything. I just, you know, just life has thrown me in all types of positions, and what am I to hold?
We're in our 30s, bro. We've been through a lot of shit. Can you believe it?
Honestly, I'm so grateful for you right now. I'm grateful for what you're doing.
Chris, thank you so much for being on the show, man. I hope that we keep in contact. I love to pick your brain a little bit. I didn't know you're this deep.
Whenever we don't have to wear a mask, or if we have to wear a mask, I think we could possibly do one, you know, or we can set up another event. I know so many people that would love to share too, who are in good positions in their life, whether they're in good or bad, whatever. But you know, people that can expound on them and possibly shed some light on some type of.
I would love that. I would love that. I would absolutely love that. And it's been really a pleasure. I'm like sad that we gotta finish, but that's it. Before we end it, give them your Instagram info, whatever info you got, share it.
Well, I mean, the hub is Instagram at the moment. I'm also on YouTube. I do need to promote and do more work on that. However, things do take time. Yeah. And Cleanse_USA. You can find me on Instagram, and then from there you can navigate to whatever I'm doing. And I just want to say one last thing.
Yes.
Whoever's watching, don't forget your breath. You know, take some time in a day to close your eyes slow your breathing down and just look inside. Like literally just take some time for you and nothing else. You know, a lot of times, again, this world is so fast. And like sometimes you just gotta slow it down and look inward and like focus on that inhale, exhale, because it reveals so much to myself and you know, others have told me that. So, you know, breathing, remember that, and that's it. All
right, you know what? I'm gonna end it right there. Just take a second and breathe. I'll catch it on the next one. That's how I'm gonna end it. I hope that you guys saw and listened and heard to just some feedback on cattiness. I think that those are topics that people really don't want to talk about because they don't want to admit it. It's like a pill you gotta swallow. You know what I'm saying? Like real life, real shit. I'm catty. Yeah, you're catty. We're whatever. If there's something that you guys want to add to it, if you want to disagree and say that good cattiness doesn't exist, then let me know. If you have more ideas, opinions, a way to deal with cattiness in the workplace, in life, at home, whatever, let me know. I hope you guys did enjoy the episode. I want to thank my girl Evie for being here this evening.
It's always a blast. I always have so much fun.
Thank you, doll. And guys, please remember to go to her Instagram, which is
Candid Creations _.
Yes. Guys, please remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel, which is Late Night with Linda Rosa. Make sure to send your questions or comments to my Gmail at latenightwithlindarosa@gmail.com or send me a direct message. That works too. I'm still doing my layers to Linda, so I would love to answer all of your questions, non-filtered, raw, Linda answers. We have our Instagram. You can follow us on Instagram, Facebook, Late Night with Linda Rosa. The link to all of our channels, whether it's YouTube, podcast, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, you name it, I'm on it. The link is in our bio on Instagram. Thank you so much for listening this evening. I really love and appreciate you all. I hope that you had an amazing day and that tomorrow is even better. And I'll catch you at 6.